What if Pablo Escobar, the world's most infamous outlaw, traded his empire of crime for a black robe and a gavel? What if the man once hunted by every law enforcement agency on Earth suddenly became the law itself? What if Pablo Escobar was a judge? He brought from his past twisted secrets that turned every trial into theater, every verdict into business, and every law into an opportunity. But what would happen if those same secrets ruled the courtroom instead of the streets? Would justice be delivered or auctioned off to the highest bidder? Inside his courtroom, whispers replaced objections, envelopes of money replaced evidence, and verdicts weren't written in ink, but in smoke from the cigar he lit after every deal. The same man who once lived outside the law was now its most corrupt symbol. Stay with us until the end of this episode of What If Celebrities to discover the dark secrets of Judge Escobar. And if this story shocks your imagination, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because more twisted what-if stories are on the way. The courthouse was supposed to be a temple of justice, but under Judge Escobar, it felt more like a theater. His black robe didn't disguise his smirk, and his gavel didn't sound like order. It sounded like a threat. Every time it struck the desk, lawyers flinched, jurors shifted nervously, and even the police officers guarding the room avoided his stare. His first secret was intimidation. Pablo had ruled his empire with fear, and now he brought the same weapon into the courtroom. Witnesses stumbled over their words, defense attorneys suddenly forgot their arguments, and prosecutors found themselves sweating under the weight of his silence. And yet the strangest part was how the public reacted. Crowds filled the gallery, not to see justice served, but to see what Escobar would do next. Was this a trial or a spectacle? Was the gavel delivering justice, or simply warning the audience that the real power in the room had nothing to do with the law? The question lingered in every mind. Could justice survive when fear itself sat behind the bench? Or was intimidation now the law of the land? Justice was no longer blind. Under Judge Escobar, it had a price tag. Defendants didn't bring evidence to his courtroom. They brought envelopes of money, sometimes even entire suitcases. The thicker the stack, the lighter the sentence. In Pablo's court, the law was less about guilt or innocence and more about negotiation. And then came the ritual everyone whispered about. After sealing a deal, Escobar would turn his gavel in his hand, revealing a hidden lighter at the tip of its wooden handle. With one flick, a flame sparked. He lit a thick cigar, leaned back in his chair, and exhaled a cloud of smoke that curled above the bench like a crown. Every verdict ended not with a bang of justice, but with the smell of tobacco announcing another transaction complete. This was his second secret, justice for sale. The courtroom became a marketplace, the law just another currency. But the questions only grew darker. How many verdicts had been written in smoke rather than in ink? How long before the entire legal system bent to the weight of his payments? And the most haunting thought, if the law itself was corrupt, where could anyone find justice at all? Soon, his courtroom became the stage for the powerful and the infamous. Politicians, celebrities, even corporate tycoons, all of them found their way to Judge Escobar's bench. Strangely, none of their cases ever ended in scandal. Instead, each trial concluded with a handshake, a knowing smile, and the faint smell of cigar smoke lingering in the air. This was his third secret, alliances through corruption. For Pablo, justice was never about punishing the guilty. It was about recruiting the useful. Those who entered his courtroom trembling often left as his allies, bound not by verdicts, but by favors. Every deal made him untouchable. Every alliance expanded his influence beyond the courthouse walls. Soon, the headlines were less about crime and more about mystery. How did a convicted mogul suddenly walk free? Why was a scandalous politician suddenly untouchable? And the deeper question, was Judge Escobar building a new empire? this time not with armies or weapons, but with favors and secrets traded behind. Closed doors? The public whispered another question. If everyone powerful was in his pocket, who was left to hold him accountable? If the courtroom was his stage, the media became his amplifier. Journalists who once tried to expose him now wrote glowing headlines. Trending hashtags painted him not as a criminal in disguise, but as a reformer who understood the real world. Justice wasn't blind anymore. It had a press team, envelopes of money, and sometimes entire suitcases moved quietly beneath tables in newsrooms and studios. Stories vanished overnight, scandals dissolved into silence, and glowing profiles emerged in their place. Escobar didn't just silence critics, he turned them into his mouthpieces. This was his fourth secret, controlling the narrative. He understood that perception was stronger than law. If people believed he was a hero, then truth no longer mattered. His power didn't rest on verdicts, but on headlines and hashtags that spread faster than facts. But the questions mounted. How many journalists could be bought before the truth itself disappeared? Was society still choosing its leaders, or were they being sold illusions crafted by Judge Escobar's money and smoke? And the most chilling thought, if lies were repeated, often enough, could they eventually replace reality? The day came when Escobar faced the strangest trial of all, his own. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, politicians, and ordinary citizens, all waiting to see if justice would finally catch up with the man who had once been untouchable. But Escobar was ready. He leaned forward, cigar smoke curling above his head, and delivered the verdict himself. In my court, there are no crimes, only prices. The gavel struck, not to declare guilt or innocence, but to declare a new order. This was his fifth and final secret, rewriting justice itself. He didn't just bend the law, he redefined it. In Escobar's courtroom, morality was negotiable, truth was flexible, and justice was whatever he decided it to be. The world watched in shock. Was this still a court of law, or the coronation of corruption? Could society survive when its very foundation, the promise of justice, had been twisted into a marketplace? And the darkest question of all, if Escobar could put justice itself on trial, who would dare judge him? And so we ask, what if Pablo Escobar truly became a judge? Would the courtroom be a sanctuary of justice? Or just another empire built on fear, smoke, and money? Perhaps the real danger isn't Escobar himself, but the haunting truth his story reveals. Justice is only as strong as those who protect it. And when corruption wears a robe, the law becomes a mask. If this story made you question the thin line between law and power, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you trust Judge Escobar with your fate? Or would you fear his verdict before the trial even began? And here's the final question for you. Which other celebrity would you like to see reimagined in our next episode? Because history may belong to the past, but imagination belongs to all of us.